If you scare easily, I wouldn't watch this video. When Sarah received a creepy-looking doll as a gift from her grandmother, she thought nothing of it. But as soon as she brought the doll home, strange things began to happen. She would hear footsteps in her bedroom at night, and the doll seemed to move on its own. Sarah soon realized that the doll was cursed and that it had a dark past. Desperate to get rid of it, she threw it away, but it always seemed to find its way back to her. One night, the doll attacked her in her sleep, and Sarah knew she had to find a way to break the curse before it was too late. As the sun set and darkness fell, a group of friends decided to take a shortcut through the haunted forest. They had heard stories of strange occurrences, but they never believed them. That was until they heard a voice whispering their names and the rustling of leaves behind them. They quickened their pace, but the voice followed them, getting louder and more menacing. Suddenly they were surrounded by trees with glowing eyes staring at them. They ran as fast as they could, but the forest seemed to have a life of its own. They finally stumbled out of the forest, grateful to be alive. But they knew they would never forget the terror of the haunted forest. It was a dark and stormy night, and Alice was alone in her house. She had just finished watching a scary movie and was feeling a little uneasy. As she went to bed, she heard strange noises coming from outside her window. At first she tried to ignore it, but the sounds grew louder and more persistent. She got out of bed to investigate and opened the curtains, only to find a pair of glowing eyes staring back at her. But before I tell you what it was, like in this video and subscribe to my channel for the next part. The circus had come to town, and everyone was excited to see the clowns. But something wasn't right about one of the clowns. His makeup was grotesque, and his eyes seemed to follow you wherever you went. One by one, people started to disappear. No one suspected the clown until it was too late. The town was gripped with fear as more and more people went missing. Finally, the clown was caught, but no one knew what happened to his victims. The town never forgot the terror of the killer clown. When a group of friends decided to explore an abandoned asylum, they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. The asylum had a dark history, and it was said to be haunted by the ghosts of the patients who had died there. As they explored the dark and eerie corridors, they heard strange noises and saw shadowy figures moving around them. They soon realized that they were not alone in the asylum, and that something was following them. As they tried to find their way out, they were confronted by the ghostly apparitions, and they knew they had to escape before it was too late. When Anna moved into her new apartment, she found an old mirror in the bedroom. At first, she thought nothing of it, but soon she began to feel a dark presence in the room. The mirror seemed to be alive, and it would reflect images of a demon-like figure staring back at her. Anna soon realized that the mirror was possessed by a demon, and it was trying to take over her soul. Desperate to escape the demon's grasp, in a panic, Anna grabbed a hammer and smashed the mirror into pieces. The next day, Anna moved out of the apartment, relieved that she had escaped the demon's grasp. But she couldn't help but wonder what other cursed objects might be lurking in her future homes. When the Turner family moved into their new home, they found an old dusty attic that had been locked for years. As soon as they opened the attic, they began to feel a strange presence in the house. Objects would move on their own, and eerie whispers could be heard at night. The family soon realized that the attic was haunted by the ghost of a previous owner who had died in the house. Desperate to get rid of the ghost, they tried to seal off the attic, but the ghost only seemed to grow stronger. One night the ghost appeared before them, and they knew they had to leave the house before it was too late. As soon as the Smith family moved into their new home, strange things began to happen. Doors would slam shut by themselves, objects would move on their own, and eerie noises could be heard at night. It wasn't long before the family realized that their new home was haunted by the ghost of a previous owner who had died in the house. They tried to ignore the ghostly presence, but it only seemed to grow more and more restless. One night, the ghost appeared before them, screaming and moaning in fury. The family realized they had to leave the house before it was too late. After moving into an old Victorian mansion, the Johnson family began to notice strange shadows on the walls. They would appear out of nowhere and move around the room as if they had a life of their own. It wasn't long before the family realized that the shadows were actually the ghosts of the previous owners who had died in the house. The ghosts seemed to be trying to communicate with the family, but their messages were cryptic and unsettling. One night, the family woke up to find the shadows hovering over their bed, and they knew they had to leave the house before it was too late. The old house on the hill had been abandoned for years, but there were rumors of strange noises and lights in the windows. A group of friends decided to investigate, and they found the front door unlocked. As they entered the house, they heard footsteps and whispers. Suddenly, the door slammed shut and they were trapped inside. They heard screams and laughter coming from the walls. They tried to leave, but the doors and windows were all locked. They finally found a way out, but they knew they would never forget the horror of the house on the hill.